Oi, what's the best game where you get to eat pie? What's the best game where you play a dead guy? Aye? You'll find out in VG247's podcast. Here, what's the best game where you swing from a rope? And what's the best game where you batter the Pope? Assassin's Creed 2. Like I said, you will find out in this here podcast. Hello and welcome to VG247's Best Games Ever podcast, where we attempt to find the best game within a very specific and weird category that we've made up. For example, this week we're looking for the best game that you love despite itself. Gaming as a hobby is sustained by people persevering with things that they know are a load of complete shit. Destiny 2, for example, Sony's largely mediocre first-party output, working in the games industry and having any kind of online presence. We're joined today by a very special guest who is, I think, an expert on this particular phenomenon, given that he's Ireland's foremost authority on Dreamcast peripherals. It's Owen O'Donnell from The Infinite Review, and also just, you know, from like when we've met in the past.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Jim. Thank you for having me.
Thanks very much for coming on. It's one of these weird things where like the VG247 podcast now becomes one of those ones on the sort of weird circuit of people mostly based in Scotland that constantly go on each other's podcasts.
Well, here's hoping.
Yeah, it's good to be in that mix now, Tom, isn't it?
No, I didn't like the way that Owen got introed first.
It'll be always
That's
the
not how it
guest.
normally works, is it?
Well, usually we do a little joke about how you're old and jaded, and then. But I thought we'd just introduce Owen.
Can we
nicely.
do it again, but introduce me first?
Well, you've introed yourself now, so we have Tom Ori on, who is technically not supposed to be on the podcast because that's what we've been telling people for weeks, but we were lying, as it turns out. That was the big joke. We said that you weren't going to be on anymore, and you are. So
Someone did a message and said, "I'm glad he's gone."
Who did that?
I can't remember. Someone.
Simon Miller.
Yeah.
Did you see the numbers going up as you were doing the gag about Tomori being
There was
gone?
a spike on his last episode, yeah.
It's like, all right, great jumping on point, and then, well,
Yeah. Actually, it's just we've just continued to extend the impenetrable in-joke. And Sharif, you haven't been on for a little while. A lot of it because you've been moving, but you've also gone freelance, etc.
Yes.
But yeah, so like we've got people dialing in from England, Ireland, and the UAE, which is it's like the UN, right?
Yes. It's just like the USA, except there's instead of an A, it's an S.
Yeah.
are we going to sort out any problems?
No, it should be fine.
All right, okay. So look, we're looking for the best game that you love despite itself, and I don't know what anyone's picked this week. Actually, no one, you did tell me, but I've forgotten. We've also got a fourth contributor in the form of the audience, so that's a new thing now. So the audience listeners can win points if one of them sends in something that's better than anything that you guys have said.
Is this the first time that's happened? Did it happen last week?
No, it was last week as well, if you've not been listening.
I didn't listen. If I'm not on it, why should I listen to it? I mean,
Fair enough.
Right, there's a couple of new things, Tom, and I'll go through them with you as they come up, right? The first thing is that the audience is now a competitor, and the other thing is that we have got a brand new theme tune for
you didn't let me listen to that, did you, before?
for the last bit of the show where we have to pick something. There's a brilliant new theme tune by Dave Ballmer, right, which I'm sure everyone's looking forward to listening to. He's another
Also,
one of
it's
these.
not about games anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you seen that film Cars?
Yeah, it's now about the works of Pixar. Okay, all right, Sharif, I'm going to make you go first, I'm afraid.
Oh, God.
The best game that you love despite itself, is it a Souls game? We've got a sweepstakes.
No, I love the Souls games because they're genuinely good games. I don't like them in spite of themselves. I love them because of what they are. I think maybe love is a strong word, but I'm going to go with Call of Duty, specifically the Infinity Ward, like Modern Warfare stuff.
Okay.
I would say starts with Call of Duty Ghosts, which might get me like put on some lists. But it's, let's say, from Modern Warfare Remake and then the Modern Warfare 2 last year.
Yeah.
I I play a lot of shooters, right? I'm the type of person who would see a cool GIF or like a 3-second clip in a trailer on Steam and click on the Steam page and see like, oh, this looks like absolute garbage. I want to play it because of this very specific thing that I saw that I want to experience. And I'm just going to spend the $10 or whatever.
Well, like shooting a gun.
Yes, exactly. Because it seems they have done something weird with the reload animation here that I have never seen before. As someone who plays shooters more than any kind of sane person should. So I'm like, I have a lot of appreciation for the nuances of the handling of weapons in games, and so I tend to put up with a lot of shit to get to that thing. So that hopefully should explain a little bit why I'm playing Call of Duty. Because in specifically the Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2 that I was just talking about, they have taken this approach of being very authentic with their weapon sounds, with their gun modeling, with even like the Foley work of like when the character's gun is holding a grip. Like you hear a lot of like, there's a lot of attention to detail if you like watch the reload animations side by side with like real life. There's a lot of attention to detail to the point that it makes tactical shooters and games that are supposed to make this their bread and butter. They kind of make them blush because of like, there's no AAA studio spending that time on like having like a latch click on and off when you're like a magazine latch do it because no one is looking at that, right?
Yeah.
So they invest all this money into this production value of making everything feel less authentic. And I look at that and be like, this is amazing. I want to play this. And the games feel good, to be fair. Like obviously it's not just a facade. But the problem is Call of Duty is a game that was designed 10 years ago. So you get into the game. And in my case, every year I'm like the meme from like the Victor Voss meme from Far Cry 3, where I'm like, this year's gonna be different. They're gonna they've spent too much money and time doing these extraneous things. There's no way it's just gonna be another Call of Duty game. There's no. They're gonna have some avenue for me to not play Call of Duty but still enjoy the stuff that they made. And it never is. It's never the case. It's never the case. Every year, it's always like, oh, kill streaks. Oh, people jumping around corners. Oh, it's the same thing. And I'm like, every time I'm like, I should stop playing this because usually, like, I'm never a person who like, I don't get sad about like dropping video games. Like I know what I like and what I don't like. You know what I mean? Like I'm never in a situation where I'm like, I should see this through. Like I was playing Jedi Survivor earlier this year, and that game is just way too long and then just loses steam halfway through. And the things that I didn't like about the first game are just built upon in this. They never really changed them. So I just stopped playing. And I was like, this is I'm not being engaged by this at all. This just turned into a modern video game. Go plant these things on the roof of the canteen. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm not going to do that. And I just leave. Right. So I'm not, I play Assassin's Creed for like 3 hours every year just to, be on to see what the new thing is. And I go in knowing like, oh, none of this is gonna be enjoyable for me. And exactly what happens is I play for like I pick up the loop basically, and I just stop playing. Like I don't.
Oh god, this is such a polar opposite of me.
Right? Like I'm not, what I mean? So I'm never like in a situation where I'm like, if I don't like something, I'm just gonna drop it. It's not the end of the world, except for these goddamn Modern Warfare games where I just go in, I spent like 30 minutes in the menu, and I'm like, oh my god, this is the attention to detail. I like listen to the sounds and like the gun range, and I'm like putting out my sick gun, and I'm like loading into a match, and then some kid jumps around the corner from my like immediate right to my immediate left, one shots me with a sniper with no attachments, and like one shot body shot, and I'm like, oh my god. Like I haven't played like the recent Modern Warfare for I want to say like 3-4 months, like since season 2, and season 5 just came out, and I tried like, hey, I'm in a different country now. I have a different internet, and I'm closer to pings in the Gulf area, which means I'm gonna have like 20 or 30 ping, which I had never had before. Living in Egypt, like the lowest I could get was 60 and 70 to Europe. So like this is maybe this is my time to shine, man. I mean, I kid you not. Like the first 2 matches that I joined were in progress, and if you've ever played a Call of Duty in your life, joining a match in progress is never a good thing. Like it's never happening, right? For the very specific reason that there is a reason that you're filling in for these people that left, and you're about to find out why they left.
Turning up late to a bar fight, right?
You're about to find out, and so you get in, and it's like 6 kill streaks in the air. I'm spawning, dying. I'm like, I just want to, like, can you make like a playlist, like just call it like geriatric Call of Duty, or like call it like Call of Duty boring edition TM. Like, right? Just for people like me who are like, let's say like when you jump, you lose, let's say, 100% of accuracy. So you don't do some of the dumb shit that they're doing. And I understand this is not going to be popular, but just make me, and I'm happy to wait like 3 hours for a match, for like the 100 people to finish the match they're playing and then come pick me up. Like I'm happy with that. But it bothers me so much that they invest all this time to make this game, and then they wrap it around this Call of Duty bullshit, which I think is terrible. Like all the kill streaks and like the movement-based stuff, the arcade things. And I keep playing it every year, thinking, try to eke out like my own sort of fun, where I've sort of had like these haptics that I've been creating like as I play. Where it's like, oh, there's a kill streak in the air. I'm just gonna stay indoor. I'm not even gonna camp to like get. No, I'm just gonna stay indoor and refuse to play. I'm just gonna look at a wall and refuse to play until the kill streak is over. Right? Just trying to get any sort of fun that I can. I try to like gravitate towards the modes where there is as little emphasis on kills as possible, just to try and get the thing. So I like those games. I just wish they would be different, just a little bit, so that they can match the
thing. It really sounds like you don't like those games.
That's the thing, though. I would stop playing. That's what I was trying to say earlier. Like I wouldn't be having this conversation. I'd be just like, oh, this is not for me, and then I would stop.
There's clearly something about it that keeps you kind of coming back and going through the same sort of, oh God, it's happening again, but you were drawn in by the guy clipping the clip into the P90, which I completely understand.
Clipping the clip, yeah, that's what they say.
Totally, no, I get it. But yeah, oh God, what you were saying about Assassin's Creed, you know what, actually?
Have you been waiting to jump in to talk about Assassin's Creed?
No, because when you were talking about Assassin's Creed, I was like, oh God, I have like a 180 hour save in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I don't even like that game that much, but I'm still haven't finished it because I got 100%. I got to do everything.
Oh, it's just a compulsion. It's not like you're not being drawn in by something in the game.
No, and I like because I love Assassin's Creed despite itself. I guess this would be mine. It's the same with Star Trek Discovery, right? Season 5 of that.
No, I will not be baited, Jim.
Season 5 of that comes out like either the end of this year or next year, and it's a terrible television program that I hate.
Yes,
but I gotta watch it because it's Star Trek. I'm too deep now. I'm 39 years in.
Which one was the last one where they time traveled into the far future? And the Federation was like that
was like 3 seasons ago. They've just been in the far future now, and it's been terrible. The only difference between far future Star Trek and kind of normal Star Trek is that all the ships have like bits that aren't attached.
Yeah, they have like this like reprogrammable material where everything is just, I'm gonna make this goo into a thing, and I just look at that and be like, oh, and they have like funny uniforms.
I really like that.
Need to move on because I'm imagining the engagement, like the audience engagement line here. It's just
everyone is very hip about Star Trek. They just made an episode. It's a different show, but they just made an entirely musical episode.
Everyone loves Star Trek. I
really like that when Jim brought up his 185 hour save in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. That like on the video streams, I did a big head shake I couldn't hold back. Sharif was like leaning back in his chair with contempt, and Tom Murray, who God love him, is so used to listening to this shite that it's just nothing. Been listening to Jim talk, it's like I heard this back when it was 50 hours. I remember when he hit 100. Nothing.
You know what? I've mentioned it a few times. You can definitely track my Valhalla progress over like.
Oh God!
God, I've got 120 hours in that now. I still haven't finished. All right. Okay.
The people at Ubisoft using it as evidence. Look, see, he's still happy.
Yeah.
Look
at him.
He's fine.
That's engagement, right? All right. Okay. So, which particular Call of Duty is it, Sharif, that you're submitting?
I would just submit Modern Warfare, and Modern Warfare 2, the new ones, not the old ones. The old ones are fine, obviously, but like the specifically the case that I'm trying to make is Modern Warfare 2019 and Modern Warfare 2 2022.
Okay, we're submitting those, and on the basis that you haven't learned. Okay, all right. So let's hear from Owen. What have you got for us? What is the best game that you love despite itself?
Hello, VG 24/7 team. I have brought Silent Bomber for the PlayStation 1.
Right.
I was tempted to bring on Monster Hunter Rise because that's a game I love, but I don't think there's any game that I like that much that I have no idea how any of it works. It's a game I've finished without learning. Like, if you ask me, what are the buttons to use the weapons? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, there's a million things to do with, like, combine things in a pot. I don't know anything about that. How do you make armor? I've no idea. I don't know how any part of it works, but it's a good game. The Last Guardian, I was also tempted to bring as well, because that's a game that I love. And even though I like that Trico doesn't always obey, that doesn't change the fact that there weren't moments where I thought, I'm going to make this animal real, kill it, and then myself. Because I was so angry. But I've decided on Silent Bomber because it's an excellent game that deserves more love. But the problem is, when it came out, the PlayStation 2 was just about to come out, so everyone was more excited about Fantavision. So let's take a look at the box. Silent Bomber has everything a great PlayStation game needs and much more, which is true.
That is quite an opening for a bit of box copy, isn't it?
There's so much on there. It also says an extensive tutorial training mission turns virgin gamers into master players. So I've got a lot to.
Whoa!
I've got a lot to thank Virgin Bomber for.
For audio listener, he actually had. This is not a sham. Like, he has the box and he's holding it to the camera. Like, this isn't something he pulled off the internet. Like, no, he's committed.
So it cures virginity. Also, that extensive tutorial training mission is just level 1.
Yeah,
that's it turns boys into men, doesn't it?
Oh god!
But it's an absolutely brilliant game. It's extremely good, and I'm always a little suspicious whenever anyone talks about games that they love that are over 20 years old, because I believe them, but I also think, put that game on right now.
Yeah.
Put it on right now. No save states. No, no improvements. Put it on and play it and see how long you get on. But like Silent Bomber, like, because I was thinking about it for doing this, I chucked it on again and I could happily just sit and play it. The gameplay is fantastic. Arcadey.
What is this game? What do you do?
You bomb things.
Is it like Bomberman?
It's a bit like it's like Metal Gear Solid Bomberman.
Yeah.
So you have like a range, like there's a beam in front of your character that allows you to plant bombs on enemies while you run around them, but you can also stack your bombs if you're quick enough. And there's different kinds of bombs like napalm and so on, but you're storming a giant space station, and so there's all manner of robots and alien baddies and all kinds of things, but it's very fast paced, very techno soundtrack blasting off. It's got that, it came out in that time where sound mixing was always awful, so all the dialogue is almost impossible to hear over the sounds of anything else. Which I'm always a fan of. It's also from that time where you'd get a 2-player mode. And the 2-player mode in this is excellent because there's no interest in balance. It's every time you beat a boss, you unlock that boss in 2-player mode, so you can play as every boss in the game against any other boss. And it's completely unbalanced. It's like, in a way, it's pointless, but it's also just really cool and just a fun way to mess about if you're playing it with someone else. It's great. It's an absolutely great game. So all this praise, where's the despite itself? Well, in their wisdom, when they brought Silent Bomber to Europe, they decided to include a glitch that wasn't in the Japanese or American release, which makes the game unfinishable.
What?
Yep. There's a cutscene where it freezes, and that's it.
It's
Why?
like pre-patching. This is like this.
But
is
it's the
this,
same game, though. Like, they're not gonna make,
I know,
like,
I
they didn't
guess-
add anything.
I guess they thought, well, we better put in Spanish and the inability to
okay.
finish it. I don't
Right,
know,
okay.
but there doesn't even seem to be extra languages. I don't know what went wrong.
Is this some sort of like European extreme? Is this like some sort of like, this is the unfinishable? You can never finish this.
Like, no
Oh my God.
European has legally finished Silent Bomb. What's beautiful about where it breaks is it's in the middle of a cutscene. You're rescuing your commander, and she's in a jail cell. And it's when she says, "I give up," and that's when it freezes. So on your screen,
Oh,
it's the
no.
character saying, "I give up."
I think there's
So it's
more
like
to
the
this.
game saying, "That's enough."
This is someone needs to, people make games, needs to make an investigation on this. Like this, I think there's more to this. It's way too many coincidences
Get Chris
for this
Pratt
to just
to
be
investigate.
just be like a. They did an entire video on like Excel competitive, whatever. So it's
And if
I think they're open
anyone
for anything interesting.
if anyone wanted to jump in with a, well, that doesn't count, let me just stop you there, Tom, because there's a second problem. If you don't accept the glitch as the reason to, like, in despite of itself, is it also has one of those final bosses where it's a challenging game throughout, but fair. But the final boss is one of those. It's just it's a wall of, now it's impossible. Now you're spending, like, you could blast through the game in maybe 3 hours, but then spend 6 hours on the last boss just saying, please. And it's one of those, like, it's got several phases, and if you lose any of them, you're right back to the start. And it's torture, but everything up to then, super cool.
I love it. I mean, it's sort of like it's kind of like being devised as a form of torture almost. You would like, if that was deliberate, somebody had like if this was some sort of Terry Pratchett story and a demon had conjured that, as a mild form of torture, you would accept it. Yeah, I guess so. It's a nice ironic form of displeasure. All right, okay. Right, so that's Silent Bomber on the PS1.
Silent Bomb on the PlayStation 1. Check it out.
Or not, apparently. If you're listening to this, like, I don't know what you're...
Like play the tutorial level at least.
If they do put it up on PSN or anything, I would suggest download it off the American shop.
Yeah. You know what?
Interesting.
That would be exactly like Sony to put it up and just like the glitched version unmodified, and like people still haven't.
I mean,
fixed it
they
after
do
30 years.
sell. They're happy to take your money for Jammer Lammy, even though they know, well, that's not going to work for anyone. Anyone who buys that will not get past level 1. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
But anyway, thanks for the cash.
Let's move on to Tom. Tom, what have you got for us? What is the game that you love despite itself?
Hello.
Yeah.
I had a whole thing planned, but then Owen was talking about Monster Hunter Rise, right, and how he played it and didn't really understand anything about it. It reminded me of The Witcher 3 in that I played through The Witcher. It took me about 2 years, about 20 minutes a day. A long time to play that through. And honestly, like, there's like that radial menu thing that I think you can pop up and you can do things, right? I don't know what that does. I've used the same attacks the whole way through the game. I think, like, there's various magic abilities you can get, I think, right, in The Witcher.
Yep.
I didn't use any of them apart from whatever the standard one was, which I think, I can't remember what it was. It's like, is it some kind of buff of some sort? I can't remember. But that just reminded me that game was just too complicated to get into when you're playing it for 20 minutes a day with extended periods of not playing it. I'm not picking The Witcher 3.
I was going to say that'd be a real weird one for you to pick.
Yeah.
Why?
It's not boring, or I mean, well, it arguably is boring, but it's like it's just not a very Tom Ori game, is it?
So let me take you back to when I was a child, right? So back when I was a child, most games, like we've discussed earlier, were a bit crap, right? They really were, and you had like a few that were actually good. Most of them, because you're a kid, and people obviously played them, but older than me, were adults, so I don't know how they felt. But when I was a kid, all games were mostly great. Yeah, that you bought it, you saved up my paper round money, whatever, my money for cleaning pubs.
Yeah.
And I'd spend whatever 40, 50 quid on a game. So you'd be invested and you'd be like, this game's actually good, right? Because I spent money on it. It's like you're locked in. You have to like it at that point. And there was loads of games, right? Tons and tons of games from particularly PlayStation era, where you got like just pretty average third person action shooter games, whatever, arcade racers that had like 2 tracks, whatever. And you're like, yeah, this is brilliant, until you got fed up after playing it exclusively for 6 months because that's all you could play. But going on a bit in my childhood, so like N64 was a peak console for jank in my mind. It was like trying to do stuff that it couldn't really do all the time, right? So there's a few games that stick out to me, both from Rare, right? I mean, Rare were actually more games than 2, but the 2 I'm picking are GoldenEye and Perfect Dark, right? So as a child, GoldenEye, I'm saying child, I was probably 15. I don't know how old I was. It is a child still, but older than, like, don't need to imagine 9-year-old or anything. It's 15-year-old.
Right, okay.
So I was aware of things a bit more. I think probably, like, I knew what good and bad was at that point, I think. But you look at GoldenEye, and at the time, it was amazing, right? It was incredible, but the frame rate was dog shit, right? Awful frame rate in GoldenEye. And then you go to 4-player mode, which is how I played it the most, really. And it's like frame rates of like 10, 12 frames a second, probably. Like, can you imagine that now? It's hard to imagine. Like, people now think frame rate is like a modern thing, right? Oh, frame rate. It's like games back then couldn't run well. They could. Games for all time have run at good frame rates, apart from N64 games, particularly Rare games on the N64. Like, Perfect Dark is even worse. Like, it looks better than GoldenEye, but even like in the single player campaign, it's like 12 frames a second or something. It's appallingly bad. Like, how did I play this game? I have no idea. Looking back, you're like, was it like that? I had to check. I had to go and watch some videos earlier that actually looked at DF videos, to be fair, like Digital Foundry, sister publication. And they're like, yes, the frame rate was this bad. And then you could put it in high res mode, which is still stupidly low resolution back then, but it was high res mode. 12, 10, 8 frames a second in Perfect Dark. Put it in multiplayer, almost completely unplayable, right? But then I loved it. Like, how did I love it so much despite the terrible frame rates? So my pick is, I'm going to go with GoldenEye, even though it's not as bad,
All right.
frame rate wise, as Perfect Dark, because I enjoyed it more at the time. Perfect Dark came out like around Dreamcast era, and I'd moved on more or less. Like, N64 was like for babies. I was into the Dreamcast zone at that point.
The Dreamcast
which had
zone.
much better arcade-like frame rates.
I'm still trying to escape the Dreamcast.
Apart from Sega Rally frame rate, which is
that bit in Sonic Adventure with the whale.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I played a side story. I played a demo pod of a Dreamcast in a Virgin cinema. Yeah, when it was like Virgin took over cinema chains and sold their own shit cola in there and stuff. And I played the demo pod, and it had Sonic Adventure, and you do the bit with the whale. It's like, wow, it's incredible. I sold a Dreamcast to multiple friends, not personally, but I convinced them to buy a Dreamcast because I just went around the house and said, you must see this Sonic level where the whale jumps out.
Oh my
and,
God.
And 2 people bought a Dreamcast because I I should have been in marketing, probably. I was really good at doing this stuff. I used to put trailers onto discs and give them to my friends. They love me for it, I'm sure.
This is a crime. Convincing people to just get into Sonic is just...
I mean, to be fair, Sonic at the time, when you think back, like, I know you're anti sort of console, Sharif, really.
Probably, I'm not anti-console. I couldn't afford any of them, dude, growing up. It's not a thing.
But Sonic Adventure was actually a good game at the time. Like, it's one of those things that you look back and actually it controls a bit naff and the camera's a bit terrible, etc. But from a sheer, like, wow factor, you don't get that often now. It had the wow factor.
Wow, this is the future. This is next gen. It was I
love the idea of someone at the demo station for that playing the whale bit and turning around to the next person in line to use it and saying, "Visually impressive, yes, but from a gameplay perspective, not so much." And then the next person trying to enjoy it, and it has been kind of ruined from this. Oh, I kind of am just holding a button, aren't I? Can the whale even get me?
Oh, so illusion.
This is the future of gaming, is it?
Yeah. It's Star Trek, Sonic, like vapid bits with whales. Okay, so
for fuck's sake, Jim. you can't crowbar in Sarsha just because you've heard someone say whales.
And I will.
You're right. From Wales. Are you going to use that to, like, you know? Oh, I'm Welsh actor Jim Trinket. Do you know? Speaking of Wales, seen that Star Trek 4?
Yeah, I might have actually done that in the past. All right, okay. So, Tom, so you're submitting Goldeneye, which a lot of people would consider cheating.
Why?
Cheating? Consistently regarded as one of the greatest games of all time.
Yeah, even though it has massive flaw, which is a terrible frame rate. You can't say it's not, Jim, because
I think you're right. No, you're right.
At the time, particularly when you either had to have a PC back then. I'm sure there were much better games on PC, says the rich child who has a PC, right? I didn't have a PC.
Was that a personal dick?
I just don't know. If you sounded against consoles, so I was like, some people only could get, like, they couldn't afford a PC. I know an N64 was not cheap, but I used to clean pub toilet floors as a child to get the money to get an N64.
Yeah.
So I earned it, and then Goldeneye, great game, obviously, but how did we play it at that frame rate? Like, honestly.
God, it must have been some stinger to be sitting there playing an N64 thinking, I mopped up piss for this.
Yeah. I mopped up piss for that, and it can't manage double-digit frame rate. I tell you what, right? Actually, I this is a bit of a confession time, but I didn't, right? I had a Mega Drive. But apart from that, I didn't ever own a console until the 360, right? I was just playing PC stuff, and before that, I was playing Amiga games all the time. So my experience of the classic consoles is just playing them at other people's houses, and so my only experience
them,
yeah. Well, my only experience of GoldenEye for a long time was just the multiplayer around other people's houses. And I just remember always thinking, like, this is just a Vaseline smear. How the fuck do you even know what's going on? And it's like trying to, I don't know, it's like, you know, those, you know the way they did like flip book animation and like in Victorian times, they've got the biscuit tin spinning and it's like a guy and a horse and it's really jerky.
I don't think anyone knows that, Jim. I don't think anyone knows what you're talking about.
I know. You see it in museums. You see it in museums now.
Yeah,
it doesn't make it any better, Tom.
They show you how the horse is sometimes is always off the ground and it's running, right?
But like, is any listener going now, all right, like a Victorian animation instead of just saying, do you remember Goldeneye? Like, I think more people are like, yeah, I remember Goldeneye. I played that.
No, I'm just saying it's that sort of thing where you're just like, how was anyone ever entertained by this? You know,
what you're saying is you're very snobby very snobby towards your friends and their lower class entertainment.
Yeah.
You make fun of me now, Jim, but you've always been a frame rate snob. So just embrace
I've never been a frame rate
Here we
snob.
go.
You just mentioned that it looks like Vaseline smeared on a screen.
Jim just said that if he went back to Victorian times, he would look at their animation and say, "That's shite." Yous are actually entertained by this, as he picks up another pigeon pie or whatever it is.
You walk into a Victorian. I like how you've detailed a meeting at the picking up a wee snack. I like they walking into a Victorian cinema and laughing at them as they cower away from the train coming towards us.
It can't get you guys.
You fools!
Standing up like
this is like the whale in Sonic Adventure. It can't get you. You
standing
idiots.
up. Go on, run me over. Look. Go on.
Acting like fucking Q. All right. Sorry.
Jim.
Quota has been reached.
It's mad. It's mad how you all fucking knew what I was talking about, and yet you still gone. Nobody knows what. Anyway, all right, okay. So, at the risk of introducing more Star Trek chat into things, all right, Goldeneye. Yeah, we're gonna submit it, and it
I
might.
understand what the problem is here.
It might well. Well, my problem is that it might well win, and we've got a guest on.
Good.
Right. Okay. Now, we need to introduce the audience contributions, right, to this episode, okay? We have two pretty good ones. I'm not going to read them out completely. One of them's a little bit long, but it's fine. So the first one is from a YouTube user called Lock On and Fire, who clearly knows his stuff about video games with a username like that.
Metroid Prime player, I imagine.
Very possibly, yeah. But he is submitting Destiny 2. So the best game you love despite itself is Destiny 2. It's a game that I've sunk dozens upon dozens of hours into over the years. I love the setting, the story, the lore. I mean, just as an aside, you like the story of Destiny? What? Okay, to each their own, but fine. Even
This should be your first red flag.
Yeah. Even especially the impenetrable stuff, he's acknowledging that it's the impenetrable, which is in this sort of instance a euphemism for shite, I think.
Yeah.
The characters, I love the feel of the moment-to-moment gunplay. I think that's very valid. I will never recommend Destiny 2 to a single person because it has the worst new player experience, full stop, of any comparably large game. A handful of crap missions to introduce you to the world, a whistle-stop tour around the main social space, and that's your lot. You don't know where to go next. You don't know what you should be doing. You don't know what this currency means versus that currency, which expansions give you access to what content, can you play with your friends, what is going on. Silence is the game's stern reply, he's written theatrically here. And even if you get past all those barriers, it's a constant grind, and that's at the core of the loop.
I've got a problem with this choice already.
Yeah.
Right, so this person who has admitted they played this game for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Now he's saying it's got a bad onboarding experience for new players. How does he know? How does he know?
Yeah.
Right, they're gone. Just disqualify it.
He's clearly recommended. He's clearly got some people in, and they've gone, this is a terrible onboarding experience. You didn't consider this, did you? And he's gone away and thought about it, much in the way that you probably thought maybe the whale bit wasn't enough to base the purchase of a Dreamcast on, actually. But he says, and he finishes with, he's written a lot more than that, and I've kind of summarized it, but summarized it rather. But at its core, the gameplay and the narrative, I like Destiny 2, but talking about the state of the game that can make justifying it very hard. So I think that's a fairly solid pick, actually.
I have actually been in this exact situation as someone who tried to get people into Destiny 2 back when I was playing it more regularly. It devolved into a lot of like, don't worry about this now. I'll explain it when it comes up later. It's fine. When the number is bigger, just equip it, and then once we finish what we're doing now, I'll explain this other thing. And so it became a situation where when I'm not playing it, they don't want to play it, even though they enjoy the shooting and like the moment to moment. So I completely understand this commenter's plight.
It's like when you introduce a friend to Star Trek: The Next Generation, right? And they're halfway through season 1, and they're like, "Does it get better?" And you're like, "No, I'm telling you, you need to just stick with it." There's an episode in season
belter in season 4.
Yeah. there's a belter coming up in season 4. You're only like 50 episodes away.
Yeah.
All right, okay. And then a user called Malachi C94. The game I love despite itself is Xenoblade Chronicles 2, a wonderful adventure with the most rewarding exploration and combat you'll find in an RPG. Debatable, marred by grotty fan service and a really unfortunate undertone of naturalized slavery with its Blade characters that is enshrined in a mercifully not monetized, at least, gacha pull system. In spite of those elements, it's one of my favorite games of all time.
This took a turn.
Dude, I don't really want to say much about it because the problem with it sounds like a serious topic. We haven't got time to discuss in the remaining 3 minutes before this podcast has to round up. But
God, it really is like the UN here.
Yeah.
It's like it's 5 to 5 on a Friday. It's like, someone's just handed me a piece of paper. It says something about slavery. I'm not. Look, first thing Monday, right? We're going to action this. But
I'm going to release a strong reward statement.
Right now.
It's time for me to pick something now, which means it's time for the Pick Something theme tune, which is my theme tune because I'm the person who has to pick something. So, hope you enjoy this, Owen, as the guest. This is a real treat for you, actually, joining the podcast at this time.
I didn't realise it's just going to be your name over and over again.
It's it's my special part of the podcast.
I used to have a jingle on an old podcast I did. So I used to have this section called the Tomori Minute. Yeah. I was forced to speak for a minute about something that's happening in my life. Someone sent in a jingle. It was a brilliant jingle. Not much to say about that, really. That was it. I probably shouldn't have brought that up.
When you say speak about something happening in your life, you mean your personal life or just like a news minute? Okay.
But there was one time I told the story about how I was brushing my teeth, and I don't know if this happens to anyone else, but sometimes you miss your mouth, right? I'm really into it. It's, I've just rammed the toothbrush into the side of my cheek.
No.
Yeah, I've done that.
Happens to lots of people, I'm sure. It's very common.
No.
And one time, I was brushing my teeth so much that I lost control of the brush and it flew into the air.
What the hell are you doing brushing? I feel like you have a wrong idea about what brushing the teeth is.
It landed on my head.
None of this. No, I have brushed my teeth like blackout drunk, and I've never had the worst I've had is just drip a little bit of toothpaste on my shirt.
Well, you're also doing it wrong.
That's the dedication to dental hygiene, though. If you're brushing your teeth while drunk,
I'm not gonna go to bed without brushing my teeth, Jim. The hell you think I'm some kind of?
Well, if you're incredibly drunk, I mean, I'm
at home. I'm not gonna like go strolling around the streets of the United Arab Emirates drunk. Of course, that would be against public safety and.
Yeah, of course.
In the Tomori Minute, did anyone else get to jump in, or did you have to keep going like a full minute?
I had to fill the minute. I had to fill the whole minute. It's awkward. I won't lie. It was very awkward at points.
Because I am curious. Like I think that the toothbrush on head, that's definitely a good subject for the Tomori Minute. But a full minute, like stretching that anecdote.
I mean, you just told the story, and it was 15 seconds.
If I stopped talking, there was just silence for the rest of it, which made it quite awkward, and there was a lot of pressure on it.
Should we ask the audience if we should bring back the Tomori Minute?
If you remember the Tomori Minute from an old podcast I was in, let us know.
I'm sure you have long-time fans, having been doing this for a while.
I've been married for about 12 years, so one.
One long-time fan.
Tomori's 12 years.
So, all right, okay, look, I got to pick something, and the problem is, for the audience, for Owen and for Sharif, is that Tom decided to submit Goldeneye, as in, like, literally Goldeneye 64, as in something that is regarded objectively as one of the greatest games of all time. Any thoughts on that, Owen?
I mean, I think it's a terrible pick. Because, I mean, while Tom was talking, I was listening. But it was just complaining about the frame rate.
Yeah.
Like, for over a minute, you know?
I think it's legitimate, though.
But there was no, I love Goldeneye. I've got good memories of. Like, he's
It's
disgusted.
It's implied by the topic is best game, right? Best game. So I'm picking a game that I think is the best game, right?
Do you
don't have to go into detail.
Do you
I
love
played that
Goldeneye?
game for like, I don't know how many hours I played that as a kid, 15-year-old child.
Do you love it, though?
Yeah, I do. I don't love it now, to be fair.
You loved
like,
it at the
If I'm
time.
being very picky, like
Yeah.
I tried playing the very poor re-release from like when it was like this year, I can't remember what that was, and it's not great. Like, it just doesn't hold up that well. Perfect Dark is a much better game to play now if you're going to play one.
Do you know, that's the weird thing about GoldenEye. Like, when they released it, and it's like now it runs at 4K, and it's like solid, like liquid 60 frames a second, and it's just like, but what is at the core of that is not a great shooter. I mean, it might have been great back then, but now you're kind of playing it, and you're like, ugh.
Likening it to like Victorian cinema or whatever you said earlier, Jim. I think it's very spot on, because this is what they had at the time, and I thought it was the most amazing thing in the world.
Yeah,
when you look at it
yeah.
now, like at a moment in time of like, we don't understand what a shooter is on a controller. That doesn't make any sense. And it was a wonderful effort by Rare, and then Bungie came with Halo, and then the rest is history. But you look at that now, and you're like, none of this looks good. Like, as someone who did not grow up with it, who was, playing Doom at the time on PC, thank you very much. I was not like, I look at that now and I'm like, this is terrible. Like, I would never play this. But being a kid with that console as the only thing, and someone said, what if you were like behind like the barrel of a gun? Not behind, but yeah, I guess you're behind the gun and you're shooting people. I'd be like, this is awesome. This is amazing. But you look at it now, like, I just think people need to recognize that. It was a moment in time. It was like a stepping stone, but it doesn't have to be like, you can recognize it as that, but you don't have to say like, oh, it's one of the greatest games of all time. You know what I mean? It's a sort of academic.
It's not, though, is it? It's not Morrowind.
Games moved on so quickly back then, right? So like, you were like 5 years after that, we were like, was the original Xbox out? Like, Halo was probably out. Yeah. So that doesn't happen now. Like,
no, you don't get that. You don't get that March now. Like, like I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3, and the difference between it's a better game than Dragon Age Inquisition, but the difference between Baldur's Gate 3 and Dragon Age Inquisition is like, it doesn't feel like a 10-year gulf between those two things. Because like 10 years is like the difference between like the NES and the PS1. This is a huge gulf of time in the past.
Or like now, the original Dragon Age, like all of like Baldur's Gate is just like, if you were to excuse the term, like a big budget, like really more complex version of those games. Like, it's a Fallout 2. It's
doing all the same shit, and it kind of looks really similar as well. And it's like this is not a big leap. Because like culture and technology and everything else have just become very, very stagnant, because we're in the end times, so nothing new is permitted to happen. By God. So
are we picking GoldenEye? I think we should probably say, just to be clear, right? Destiny 2, you can't talk about Destiny 2 without being boring. Like, it's impossible. So that's gone.
Yeah.
The other game, well, for reasons the person said, disqualified, right? I don't believe for a second Sharif actually likes any Call of Duty game that he's played recently. You can tell me, but you said you stared at a wall. You stared at a wall instead of playing the game.
This is part of me.
And Silent Bomber, is it Silent Bomber? I think it was called Silent Bomber. I mean, shrug emoji is basically the response to that. Like, I don't actually. It's like, what?
Dear me, surely that's in my favor.
Saying shrug emoji as opposed to just shrugging on the video feed. That's like,
it's
very meta.
It's an audio format.
It's being considered to the audio listeners.
I mean, how can you forget a game title like Silent Bomber? Because you think about it for a second and you go, that's daft.
You fit the silencer on the bombs. You screw that silencer onto the bombs, and that's how they work, right?
That's right.
You have to wrap the bombs in like
this is a covert mission. Just get in, plant a load of bombs, and slip out. blow that building up, but don't, shh.
I wonder if it's translated from like a Japanese term that just doesn't make quite a lot of sense in English.
I hope so.
Oh yeah.
I hope the Japanese original title is extremely long.
Yeah.
And hyper specific with exclamation marks aplenty.
I don't know about picking Goldeneye now.
You can't go back at you literally said a minute ago.
I think people
don't pick Goldeneye on the basis that seen the frame rate now. Come on.
Even back then, it was not good. You just the game was so good. You didn't care.
Are you gonna be that podcast? Like seeing the frame rate these days.
I quite like the idea though of kind of being like, you're loving Goldeneye despite itself. We all love the idea of Goldeneye, right? But actually playing it. So, I think it still holds up even now when the frame rate's fucking fixed. So
right, okay, hang on.
For that reason, I've changed my reason for what Jim said.
Hang on.
What?
A poor frame rate is a shame. The game being unfinishable, I think, is the bigger issue.
Yeah.
The game grinding to a halt, just freezing and saying, that's the end? That's it for you? Is that not a bigger issue than, it looks like a Victorian animation of a horse? I mean, the horse is still going. If the horse froze, would that not be worse?
I think we know what's happening, Jim. Just do the flip-flop and choose something else. Come on.
I mean, pick Call of Duty, but... Or one of the audience's terrible suggestions.
Wait, can the audience actually win? Can the audience?
The audience can win now. Yeah, the audience.
So there's like two more people join this podcast. Effectively. Okay.
So the idea is that the audience are just counted as one entity, right?
Okay.
So, but the idea is to get the audience on higher on the billboard than Connor, because that would be funny. Okay. All right.
This man does not deserve this.
I'm gonna. Do I flip flop or do I not? If I
I'll tell you what. Do pick Goldeneye. Do pick it. Pick Goldeneye, and on the website say best game Goldeneye brackets. Rubbish frame rate though. Back then. And then you're that website.
Right,
that's what you want to be.
I'm picking Silent Bomber. I'm putting Silent Bomber in.
Oh no!
No,
no, I'm doing it. I'm doing it now.
That's...
I'm doing it because it would leave everyone kind of unhappy.
And a lot of the audience confused as to what Silent Bomber is and have to Google it and look at it.
No, if more people find out about it, that's.
This has been on for almost an hour.
Everyone's clicked off it at this point. Look, all right, Silent Bomber is the best game that you love despite itself, because it literally stops. It just stops at a point where a character is saying, I give up. The game literally gives up.
There's more to it
before you can finish it if you're European, which is there's definitely some kind of metaphor in that, isn't there? All right, okay, right. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Owen, for joining us this week. We've got another guest coming on next week. Who's not Tom Ari in a hat, like a proper guest again, right? So, and the topic for next week, if the audience want to join in, is the best game where nobody gets killed. Okay, so that's next week. So send us in your suggestions for that.
It's going to be interesting because I don't think that's possible. But
there are no good games where nobody gets killed, but we'll see what people come up with.
Really funny plays Call of Duty games. So.
It says Mr. fucking Dark Souls and Call of Duty. Of course, you're like, what's a video game? You don't kill anyone. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
So yeah, okay, and please do leave us a 5-star review on the podcast platform of your choice, and subscribe on the YouTube channel, and tell your friends about stuff that we do, because we'd like people to see it. All right, thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.